for the pardon. You know, throwing a party at your private golf club where the theme is rich white people, hours before millions of Americans are set to lose their food assistance, might be the Trumpiest Trump move of all time. It felt like the last big bash before the Epstein files come out. The great Fatsby weighed in on the SNAP funding fiasco on his Twitter platform, Truth Social. He wrote, "I do not want Americans to go hungry just because the radical Democrats refuse to do the Epstein files." The gaslighting has reached a fever pitch as Trump cuts off the supply of food to children, families, senior citizens, etc. But Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, wants you to know, just because they're cutting off your food and want to cut off your health insurance, that doesn't mean...
Jimmy Kimmel isn't just a late-night host anymore. He's basically running the country's unofficial after-hours therapy room, turning each chaotic political headline into a kind of emotional release. Every night he takes whatever madness happened that day, blends it with a heavy dose of sarcasm, and delivers it like a pressure valve the whole country needs. His latest target in this never-ending Democratic drama is the unlikely duo of Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, a pairing that feels like a buddy movie no one asked for. Trump storms in as the king of disorder, while Johnson tags along as the politest sidekick you could imagine. Together, they make politics look like someone mashed up The Apprentice with a Sunday school field trip.
Lack of ticket sales hasn't discouraged the tantrum of the opera one bit. He took a break from posting photos of the new Lincoln toilet to brag about his new Trumpified Kennedy Center. He wrote, "It is really looking good. The exterior columns, which were in serious danger of corrosion if something weren't done, are completed and look magnificent in white enamel." I don't know. He also said white enamel looked magnificent on his son's dental caps. So, sir, could you turn down your teeth a little bit?
Yeah, we're talking about conditions to this disaster. Look, there are natural disasters, but there are man-made disasters as well.
And which one are you?
Trump always arrives as the headline, the spectacle, the blazing meteor that somehow refuses to fade. He enters every news cycle the same way a rock star crashes into a hotel lobby, loud, dramatic, and leaving obvious damage behind. And then there's Mike Johnson, smiling carefully in the background like a man who walked into the wrong Zoom meeting and didn't want to seem rude by leaving. Kimmel doesn't even have to exaggerate this pairing. The comedy practically writes itself.
You have F. Sharp Fitzgerald lapping it all up with his sidekick, little Marco Rubio. Look at Marco Rubio. It's rare you get to see a photo of someone at the precise moment their soul exits their body. There were all manner of colorful outfits at the party, including this guest who showed up in a prison jumpsuit. It wasn't a costume. Turns out
the contrast between them is impossible to ignore. Trump talks in bursts of exclamation points and half-finished thoughts. Johnson, meanwhile, sounds like he's calmly reading an audiobook called How to Stay Collected While Everything Explodes. Together, they represent the split personality of American politics, one powered by chaos and the other by quiet control. Kimmel turns every appearance they make together into a running sketch that keeps evolving.
When Trump took over, he promised he would get rid of all the woke programming at the Kennedy Center and make it hot again. And I have to say, Fatty Lapone has lined up an absolutely magnificent new season of shows.
Hello, everyone. It's your favorite president and Kennedy Center chairman, me, with major news. We've got some fantastic new shows lined up, but I made a few minor changes, just like I did to the East.
Trump launches into rants about witch hunts, while Johnson nods so intensely you can almost imagine his neck making noise. It plays like slapstick disguised as political leadership. Kimmel breaks down their bond with a precise kind of humor. Trump demands followers, not teammates. Johnson, meanwhile, treats the entire political scene like a group project where the loudest kid keeps eating the supplies.
I'm always going to meet. All they have to do is open up the country. Let them open up the country, and we'll meet. We'll meet very quickly. But they have to open up the country. It's their fault. Everything is their fault.
That's right. The buck stops over there.
It's always some form of disorder when Kimmel highlights the absurdity in every photo op, especially Trump's obsession with crowd sizes. Trump practically glows like a neon sign advertising his own greatness, while Johnson tries to stand beside him looking humble. The two of them could easily pass as characters who never realized governing isn't supposed to be an improv show.
This morning, he threatened to delay SNAP benefits to the 42 million Americans who need them until the shutdown is over. And then his press secretary had to go out there and walk that back because he legally can't do it. It really is amazing. The president says one thing, the White House says another entirely different. It's like the one hand doesn't know what the other tiny, bruised, makeup-covered, greasy, genitalia-grabbing, Sharpie-stained baby.
Whenever Johnson tries to act like a moral compass, Trump immediately spins the direction. Kimmel loves pointing out that rhythm. One sermon here, one slogan there, one sudden twist, and somehow we're right back to the beginning. Johnson calmly defending chaos like it's his assigned duty. Kimmel calls it faith-based disaster control. The jokes are effortless because the two men perform so differently yet manage to stay perfectly synced. Trump delivers the headlines, Johnson delivers the footnotes. Then there's Trump's endless campaign trail, which feels like a traveling circus that doubles as Kimmel's favorite comedy backdrop. The chants, the signs, the slogans, all looking like a cross between a pep rally and a reality show reboot. Kimmel describes the rallies as family gatherings where facts never make the guest list. When Johnson jumps in, he looks like he's trying to harmonize with a thunderstorm. It's pure theater. Trump pulls the crowd in with force, while Johnson's calm presence gives everything an accidental sense of legitimacy. Kimmel uses that contrast perfectly. He imitates Trump's booming confidence, followed by Johnson's slow, careful tone, turning them into America's oddest musical duo. Trump shouts, "I built everything," and Johnson quietly adds, he means well. Kimmel isn't mocking faith or fame, he's mocking the way both get packaged for primetime.
You would think, as people living in an area prone to wildfires, we'd get a bit more sympathy from an elf who lives in a hollowed-out tree, but that doesn't fly in Magaland, I guess. Mike Johnson is such a little kiss-ass. I've been trying to figure out who he reminds of. I think it's this guy, there's Donald and...
Kimmel takes the whole thing apart with speed. He plays a clip, cuts to a deadpan look, and drops a punchline like he's tossing confetti into the air. He jokes that watching them together is like seeing a hurricane ask a gentle breeze for emotional backup, and the audience erupts because it's exactly true. Johnson's restraint makes Trump's chaos look even louder. They prove that in modern politics, contradiction isn't an issue, it's practically the brand. Trump's biggest talent, Kimmel says, is rewriting his history faster than anyone can double-check it. Every claim becomes a prophecy fulfilled after the fact. Johnson's specialty is nodding like a man agreeing with thunder. Kimmel jokes that if Trump insisted he invented light, Johnson would be holding a candle vigil by nightfall. The humor hits not because it's harsh, but because it captures their sincere yet completely mismatched realities. Together they embody America's craving for spectacle. Trump speaks in memes. Johnson speaks in metaphors. Yet they always end up on the same stage, promising order while performing chaos. Kimmel frames their bond as less of a partnership and more of a balancing act. One sells outrage, the other sells forgiveness. Every headline doubles as a punchline.
Clearly, to every hardworking American in any place who's missed a paycheck, anyone who has been made to suffer because the services, the health services you rely upon, or the food and nutrition supplement for your family, anyone who is hurting, you have a home in the Republican Party.
You have a home in the Republican Party. You'll be living under the stairs like Harry.
Kimmel always wraps these segments with laughter instead of lectures. The crowd laughs too, not at belief or ambition, but at the pure theater unfolding in front of them. His takedowns aren't personal, they're observational. He's not attacking people, he's holding up a mirror so everyone can see the strange show they're all watching play out. Kimmel doesn't need props to explain the bizarre energy between Trump and Johnson. He just plays their footage. Trump shouting like a carnival announcer at full volume, while Johnson stands behind him nodding as if he's witnessing divine revelation instead of someone comparing himself to Lincoln. The contrast is so intense, it practically sparkles. All Kimmel has to do is connect the dots, and the crowd finishes the joke. To him, the Trump and Johnson pairing isn't a serious alliance, it's a buddy comedy that accidentally scored another season. The storyline never changes. Trump improvises, Johnson translates. Together, they create sound bites that defy logic and break speed records. It's the classic loud guy and polite guy dynamic, except this version stars a man with his own jet and another man who thinks he's guiding history.
Hey, you just think about how cruel a person has to be to cut off food to 42 million people. It's the kind of thing that makes you go, oh, no wonder his kids are like that. The guy who never missed a Happy Meal in his life is deciding who gets to eat in this country. So after a federal court ordered them to do it, the Trump administration agreed to pay half the benefits, which is not enough, so
Kimmel likes to say Johnson is basically a human necktie, polished and professional until Trump starts talking and everything goes wild. There's something genuinely sweet about Johnson's sincerity, like he honestly believes that with enough prayer and polite explanations, he can turn a political storm into a gentle breeze. Kimmel never mocks the actual faith itself. He mocks the innocence of thinking you can stabilize chaos with courtesy. Every time Johnson defends Trump, he sounds like he's translating a tornado into a slideshow. Trump declares, "It's all rigged," and Johnson calmly replies, what he means is he cares deeply about fairness. It's unintentionally one of the funniest duets ever made. Kimmel imagines Johnson following behind Trump with a broom, sweeping up all the broken metaphors. When Trump preaches loyalty, Kimmel digs into the irony. Trump demands allegiance like a king whose throne is built out of Twitter polls, while Johnson treats it like a spiritual mission, guiding him with wisdom and a touch of forgiveness. Kimmel calls it the strangest outreach program in the world. A man of faith trying to counsel someone who thinks he already owns celestial property.
The fact of the matter is, the only man-made part of this disaster is the climate change part of this disaster, which Mike's party pretends does not exist, even though they're having snowball fights on Bourbon Street today. There was snow in Louisiana today. They got 9 inches of snow in Florida today. This hasn't happened in 70 years. A blanket of snow covered the beach, the Florida Panhandle. There was snow from Tallahassee to Pensacola. Children were voluntarily being swallowed by alligators just as
Trump's speeches burst like fireworks, while Johnson communicates in quiet signals. One can't stand silence, the other uses it as punctuation. Watching them together feels like witnessing a marching band practice in a library, both sides battling for dominance. Kimmel jokes that you know the country's in trouble when one guy quotes the Constitution and the other quotes himself. He treats their dynamic as a metaphor for America's political identity crisis, the performer and the preacher. Trump speaks to emotion. Johnson speaks to conscience. The only thing guiding them is whichever direction the cameras are pointing. When Johnson tries to be the peacemaker, the comedy writes itself. It's like watching someone try to referee a thunderstorm. Trump tosses out grievances like confetti, and Johnson answers with prayers for unity. Their whole relationship thrives on contradiction. One man shouts about witch hunts. The other nods as if he's reading it in scripture. Kimmel frames them as the ultimate odd couple. One sees enemies, the other sees lessons.
You know, there's a commission that's supposed to review projects like this, preferably before they happen. It's called the Commission of Fine Arts. Their job is to oversee new federal architecture, or it was anyway. Trump fired all of them. They were supposed to advise the president on matters of design and aesthetics to preserve the dignity of the nation's capital, but this is Trump's idea of dignified aesthetic.
But Kimmel's jokes aren't only about personality, they're about the nature of power. He points out that both men, for different reasons, rely on attention. Trump feeds on volume. Johnson feeds on approval. They both need applause. They just prefer it at different decibels. Kimmel says politics now feels like open mic night, where the winner is whoever gets the loudest reaction. The visual comedy is endless. Trump at the podium waving his hands as if he's conducting chaos. Johnson behind him, frozen in an expression that screams polite concern. Then come the contradictions Kimmel loves. Johnson talks about restoring civility right after Trump unleashes a late-night rant online. Kimmel compares it to tidying a house while the tornado is still whirling inside. The humor lands because it's accurate. Johnson keeps trying to rebrand Trump's behavior as leadership when it's clearly improvised mayhem. Even Trump's signature lines, best economy, biggest win, most unfair treatment, get new comedic life under Kimmel's narration. Johnson's unwavering agreement turns into part of the joke. Each time Trump brags, Kimmel imagines Johnson nodding as if he's witnessing a sacred revelation. The humor doesn't target faith. It targets the unshakable confidence politics rewards.
He was on 60 Minutes last night. He is desperate to try to blame this shutdown of his on the Democrats.
We are now approaching the longest shutdown in American history.
Democrats' fault.
He blurted that out like he's playing Name That Tune or something. Many were surprised to see Darth Renovator on 60 Minutes. You know, 1 year after suing 60 Minutes for editing an interview, Trump sits down with 60 Minutes for an edit.
As the montage continues, Kimmel sharpens the humor. He says the Trump-Johnson connection proves politics doesn't need scripts anymore, just microphones. The loudest voice gets center stage, and the calmest voice gets the job of explaining it. It becomes a loop of chaos followed by cleanup, drama followed by devotion. Kimmel imagines Johnson at home exhausted, alerts flashing on his phone like fire alarms, each quoting Trump's latest declaration that somehow outdoes the one before. Johnson sits like a teacher grading homework written entirely in crayons, colorful but lacking structure. He circles every line and mutters, "What he meant was," until he finally gives up and hopes autocorrect can handle divine intervention. Somewhere, Trump is announcing he's the best at something no one asked him to do, and Johnson is rewriting it into a lesson on leadership. Kimmel paints the picture so clearly the audience can practically see it. Johnson holding a Bible in one hand and a symbolic fire extinguisher in the other, as another political blaze erupts on live TV. The comedy isn't cruel. It's the strange dance between two opposites, one man setting fires and calling it warmth, the other running toward them calling it responsibility. Yet somehow both insist the house looks fine. It's not teamwork. It's performance art pretending to be governance. Kimmel calls it political yoga, with Johnson bending himself into impossible positions to defend the undefendable while Trump flexes his ego like a one-man pep rally. The crowd laughs because it feels familiar. Every workplace has a Mike Johnson trying to explain away the boss's meltdown. The whole act feels universal, part sitcom, part survival instinct. Kimmel's humor isn't bitter. It's shared relief turned into laughter. His jokes become therapy for a country trying to make sense of the absurd. By the time he delivers his final punchline, Trump and Johnson have become symbols of America's own identity, the noise and the apology, the storm and the sermon dancing in circles. And Kimmel, smirking at his desk, knows he'll never run out of material. The next headline will appear before the applause fades, and tomorrow's monologue will practically write itself.